Phil.
That's this? That's fine. If you need to borrow it. No, I have a better idea. Mine. I have no idea. You just gotta play it, play it, play it, play it, and you learn all the tunes.
Play till you perfected it.
Actually, can we borrow your tape, Alex? Oh, okay, yeah, now.
You see how it works.
Yeah, just make sure it lines up right back there.
Okay, I just want you to, this is definitely
You should be good. Finally got rid of your original droid.
no, it's not mine. That's Trevor's.
Oh, my code.
No, you know what? No, because it's in. Should be. Well,
It's an Android device.
I just tried to seed it in there. I didn't want to see it. It's in?
Yeah. Where it's set up.
Oh, yeah, emergency.
Little power pack.
It's sort of like a mini, yeah. It's Jen's equivalent, essentially.
What does something cost like?
I don't remember what it goes for, what that price was, but it's not terribly expensive.
This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test, 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 test. Okay.
No, it's not.
T4. Not the T4, you've got the P series. The chart is like 300 chips away. These were even that was way back before we started. That was for 1,000. No, that. That's the next one. I'm sure the NRE was in the I don't know where I got that from. You were saying the water too expensive. Really, it was Stackhouse, and that is next one.
Test. Test. Testing.
So we look paying $1,000 and the NRA's got maybe that is a Kickstarter project. Maybe that is a maybe the TC is Kickstarter.
Nice to know you made the right choice.
I'll tell you what an inspirational speaker, eh?
Oh my! Yes.
All right, you may eat for a power company, of course. And I think he's given that presentation before to investors, customers. So I have a checkbook out halfway through. And he stopped.
You did.
He did.
I say, give me a checkbook.
Yeah, it's already committed. Well, I like the fact that he brought up, the advantages of the techniques you're using.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's great.
It's a good chip.
Well, and the reason I asked him to speak is that I just got pissed. And people say, well, why don't we go with it? Well, there's very, all you have to do is put your hand over the thing and you figure it out. Wasted energy is still
He does throw a lot back onto these guys because these guys need to cook.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing that improves over time.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I'm just waving at Ken.
So, we ready to go? Okay. Do we have everybody? Friends here?
Oh, we're just going to wing it. Yeah, I can wing it. You're a fellow member.
Good to meet you, fellow member.
I'll bring him next time. But that won't be a good.
Let's not talk about those members. Sorry? I don't know. I usually hold on to him because he's got a phone. I don't really care what happens to him. I need his phone. He must have gone to the room to maybe fill up some more ice or something. My guess.
But I really wish you would have
Okay, I think our 10 minutes has expired. I'd like to have the attention of the people on the Amiga OS team. You know who you are. Most of you are wearing your shirts tonight. Neglected to take a group photo. No, you are wearing your shirts tonight. And so at the end of the panel presentation, if you would gather against the back wall, we will have a firing squad ready to shoot you. Oh, no, a photographer ready to take a picture. So if you'll please do that at the end of the panel presentation, that would be great, because we wanted to get a photo of this historic assemblage. And it really is. That's not a joke. I was also just reminded that we do have a show special on the Nemo motherboards, and the special is that if you order a motherboard here, you get free shipping to your location. So see Matthew, and at the end of the presentation, or especially in your regard, that would be very cool. So see him tomorrow, tackle him wherever you can, and you can arrange for that. Also, and I wanted to put in a plug for our vendors and our exhibitors, because they've spent some time, effort, energy, and money getting here. And I was happy to see that you were all discussing and patronizing and saw money exchanging hands and things like that. That's great. That motivates them to come back, which is what we want them to do as well. So thank you very much for your help in that regard. And I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Borsari and the panel.
So, hello everyone. Everyone knows who I am. Everyone who knows most of the people are up here. Just for the people on the panel, we have a couple of microphones we're going to have to share. Unmute or whatever switches. So, I think the purpose of this opportunity was to bring Matthew, Trevor, Steve, as well as some other folks from the community here, Fred and Alan, to discuss, like we do every year, sort of in this kind of format, about the Amiga computer. So I have a machine in front of me, just kind of looking to see what's going on with the streaming side. We have a few people watching. We might actually outnumber them in the room, but it's close. So we just had a great presentation by Eldee on where the power architecture is going. And during that conversation, there was a lot of discussion about what other types of processors there are. It's obviously very important to the platform for a whole number of reasons, but what I was going to suggest that we start with is a brief introduction. Say your name and sort of who you are. I'm interested to what Trevor says, if he can come up with something clever, as to who he is, because anyway. And then what I want to do is sort of think about and discuss what it might look like 2 years from now at the, I guess that is the 30th anniversary of the Amiga, what the hardware aspects of the system might look like 2 years from now, sort of as a discussion. So Matthew or Eldee, well, you just had an introduction, Eldee, so we don't need to introduce you. So Matthew, do you want to grab the mic and just quickly introduce yourself?
Hello. As you know, I'm Matthew Leaman. I'm from Amiga Kit and also involved in Aeon. So I'm involved on the retailer side and in the detail regarding the new Cyrus system and future developments from Aeon.
Okay. Hello, I'm Trevor Dickenson. I'm a Amigaholic, as you all know. Oh, yeah, we did that last year, didn't we? That's not what you said last night, though. I'm the founder of Aon Technology. I'm a business angel in New Zealand. I have lots of other business interests, but what gives me great pleasure, and it really is my absolute hobby, and I'm obsessed with it, is the Amiga computer.
Yes, hi, I'm Stephen Solie. I'm currently the cat herder for AmiWest, and having a fun time. It's fun. Trying to make some leaps and bounds with the OS, and it's a tricky thing, but I enjoy doing it.
I'm Alan Spoonbank, and I'm actually an oceanographer, not a computer scientist or anything like that. But because an oceanography is a huge field, there's always big computers and lots of electronics and all that, so you end up becoming a computer scientist anyway. And that's basically how I got into computing Amigas and all that. So.
Hi, I'm Fred Wright, longtime hardware and software engineer and Amiga user since '86 when I got my 1000, and I've attended all of the AmiWest since 1998, and I guess that's about it.
So the question that I had put, I don't think the two little guys like it. The question that I put out there to sort of get people thinking about the future. We're 2 years out from the 30th anniversary, and we just had a presentation about CPUs. We had an announcement early this morning about a new motherboard. So let's, I just wanted to throw it out to the panel to say, where do you see Amiga hardware, specifically, here we're talking a lot about Amiga OS 4 PowerPC, but in general, in the next 2 years. Is there anything interesting? Are there any opportunities that the community should be looking at? Just kind of, does anyone have any thoughts on that particular topic? Yeah, please, absolutely.
I think there's a change coming. The problem we have is because of the size of the community, the hardware has been necessarily expensive because of NRE charges. So you can't get away with it, whether it's PowerPC or Intel or any other processor out there. But from what I know of our plans, and I'm talking about the plans for Cyrus and other plans we have committed to, I don't think hardware is going to be the issue in the future, next couple of years. There's not going to be a scarcity of hardware unless people don't buy it. No, seriously, unless people don't buy it, there's not going to be a scarcity of hardware. The challenge for us now is to content on the software, and that's where our focus has got to be. So it really does put the pressure on Steve and his team to come up with the software tools and the multi-cores as part of that to bring the Amiga OS into an operating system, which is part of this century. We all love using it. It's a fantastic operating system, but it needs to. We need to add content, and that to me is the real aim for the next couple of years. Because knowing what I know from our plans, and knowing what I know of some plans from some other companies, it's really software and content that is what we need to look on for the future.
So, from what you're saying, hardware and the trajectory that we're currently on is enough to, obviously we'll be there in 2 years, but you feel that we're there. Like we have that problem under control in this time frame from a 2-year horizon.
From what we've announced today and what other plans we have in place, yes.
So when I said problem, I meant specifically around availability of systems, and that those systems are functional, and that you can get expansion cards and use other bits of hardware available from the community, I should say the computer world overall. But you brought up the other part of hardware, which is software, right? And so what specific things do you think that people in the community, Amiga users, can do to help encourage the creation of that content? And does anyone other than Trevor want to jump in? Yeah. Go for it.
I think I agree with Trevor that soft content software, that's really the issue at this point. We've got that Xbox chip hiding in there, a bunch of things going on in software. It's really cool. It gives me a little bit of that old Amiga feeling from '85 when I first saw my first 1000s at wow, so nice. But I'm moderately involved with a new project by Jerry Ellsworth, which most people have heard of. You know, she's the C64 and a joystick person, which is a new augmented reality vision system that I'm not going to go into great detail on because I could spend hours. But it's an amazing thing. You should hop on your Kickstarter and look up CastAR, CSTNR, and at least buy her a cup of coffee because she really needs caffeine right now. But this is hardware, goggles, all this sort of thing that would, if the proper software was in the Amiga 1, would work. It really literally needs a USB port and an HDMI port to work. And it's one of the most, you have to see it to believe it, so you really should look it up. But the issue there is it needs the proper game engine. And because game engines are not used just for games, they're used for scientific visualization, for education, for all kinds of things. And I don't really see that happening in the Amiga 1 realm. I see a lot of things going on that are good things, but I don't see pushing into these other realms that could be really important.
So you brought up a good point that what enables the creation of the content are the foundational technologies. And I think Unity comes to mind as one of those pieces of software that is incredibly prevalent in the mainstream computing world, and seems like it's really out of reach for the Amiga at the moment because it is a closed source tool.
Just to carry on, they are, Jerry, they're talking about open source, looking at other game engines, and all of their code, in fact, is going to be open. We keep the hardware proprietary at this point. So, making that happen certainly could be done.
But that's one thing where the Unity engine specifically opens up a huge amount of content.
If that could be gotten on
So Matthew, you want to jump in?
One of the biggest problems we've got is that we need to expand the user base, and before you start porting engines, all these things cost incredible amounts of money, and we need more users in the user base. That means that the existing hardcore user base needs to relinquish their 10-year-old SEs and XEs, sell them on, put them into the second-hand market, and actually make a purchase of these new systems that are coming through. The Aeon projects are very high risk. They need to be. Our customer base needs to make the commitment to make the purchase, and once there's other machines into the second-hand market at reduced prices, the market will grow. The amount of users will grow, and of course you need more blood in the market, more users in the market to make these software projects more commercial. And it's self-perpetuating. Once you've got better software, you'll have better hardware, and everything goes round in a cyclical way. And that's the only way to solve these issues. So it's got to be customers, it's got to be more users before we can get to that point.
So you mentioned something interesting around having people who have existing systems move them into a second-hand market. And I think one of the things that addresses is price, because the value of an older second-hand system, hopefully, will be higher than the new system so that I can sell mine and get a new one. I don't think that's going to happen. So you're saying as a way to sort of stimulate the user population to get machines into the pipeline that are more affordable.
Yeah. Amiga users traditionally always keep their machines for very, very long periods of time. You imagine the average PC user will keep their PC for what, 2-3 years, something like that. I'm regularly talking to my customers, and some of them have got 10-year-old one machines, and classic machines from 25 years ago. So if there's new hardware coming into the market like Cyrus, we have to look at our existing base of customers first to see who wants to upgrade. It's a lot of users will say, well, I'll wait for the next best thing, but there's always something better coming around the corner. You've got to support the hardware that is coming out in the future, and that's why Aeon's made a commitment. And we're hoping that the Amiga community will appreciate that commitment and buy the new machines.
Appreciate with money specifically. Okay, just making sure. So again, we keep using this term community. You guys probably have a better idea of how big it actually is, because you're one of the commerce vendors, retail vendors. And let me just say that if we look at, or when I look at other systems that are similar to an Amiga, like an Atari or an Acorn or those types of machines, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, but I don't see any kind of dealer infrastructure at all, like anything, let alone a few folks who are actually not only surviving, but also finding investment and growing and thriving to a certain extent with new hardware and so forth. So I think that does make the Amiga particularly unique in the world today as something that is uncategorizable because it is so radically different from everything else. But going back to the community point, how big do you think the community, and this is to the panel, like where do you see those inflection or tipping points happening? And maybe there's other markets or industries with new technology that we could draw on as a analog for what we might see in the future.
I imagine those numbers are probably proprietary at this point.
Well, no, I'm not. Well, so the question is it? There's two ways to approach it. Is it 100% growth of what we have today before we see an inflection point? Is it 10,000 people? I'm just saying, like, we could use abstract thoughts, but.
I was just thinking, it's an interesting question. I don't know if it's necessarily relates to a certain number of people. It certainly relates to a certain number of people to try to help drive the cost down. Can everybody hear me? Okay. One of the neat things about this community, and I think it's really extraordinary, there are some really neat things going on in the Acorn community, people who use RISC-OS, but they're using sort of off-the-shelf solutions for this. I don't see anybody in the retro computing space or the non-traditional computing space doing this, where you're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, $1 million, in the development of custom bespoke hardware to run a particular platform. And I think that's really amazing. One of the interesting things about it is it's a chicken and egg thing. If you want to drive down the cost, you need more users. If you want more users, you have to drive down the cost to make it more accessible. And it's a bit of a problem. And when you're making machines for a broader marketplace, what dominates the cost is primarily your bill of materials and your marketing dollars. It's certainly not your development dollars for the board. That dwarfs everything else, because the bill of materials may be, say, $1,000. You may have spent well over $1 million to develop that board. But because you're pushing out tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of units, the cost of development is amortized over those number of boards. It's a tiny fraction. Whereas here, it dominates the cost entirely. I don't know, because, and I wouldn't ask because I know it's proprietary, but I would suspect that the cost of the development is amortized over the small units that are actually shipped out, actually dominates the price more so than the components that go into the machine. So there's a couple of things. I'm actually a new user. I've the reason I joined the Amiga community in 2010 was I just found the experience joyous. I hadn't had a machine where I came home from work and wanted to use it even if I didn't have a reason to. Since I was a kid, it was great to use, but it has to be more than that. And I think the strategy so far is really good. It's finding the holes and plugging them. For example, we don't really have a modern productivity suite. By leveraging existing code and getting that out there, we will build up the user base because that provides a key need for users who otherwise wouldn't migrate to the platform. You start plugging those things and you start gradually building up the user base. When you gradually build up the user base, you get more volume. More volume means the prices start to go down. Prices start to go down, more users. More users again, then you start getting more unique applications because now people can make money out of it. In a hobbyist community, right, you can only do things out of love for so long. At some point you have to eat. So, you know, I mean, I look at does anybody else use Sketchblock around here? Awesome tool, right? I mean, it's amazing, and that's a work of love by Andy. But imagine how many Sketchblocks there could be out there if there was an opportunity to sell that work for a reasonable amount of price. So I think the approach so far is really, really good. You get the hardware there, you get us to where we need. We support the latest and greatest graphics hardware, and the compute performance is pretty good. I mean, it's not comparable to a PC yet, but it's much better than it was, and it's certainly, given the software that you're running on it, terrific. You start plugging those holes. You bring in the Office Productivity Suite. You start bringing in Lyle's music software by waking him up and getting him to code. You know, I really think things are moving along in the right way, but it does require everybody to really get out there. So if you've been sitting on the fence, wanting a machine, do it. These things are going to be way fast, way cool, and there's great software to do it, and more is coming. And when it gets there, don't sit there and say, oh, this is wonderful. Go into the office and do demos at work. Do demos amongst your friends. Show them this. And I think you'd be surprised how many people might actually end up buying one.
I have one question before you guys go on. What about getting all the third-party developers in here? The ones that was on the software side?
You mean the old companies?
No, guys who are still alive.
Well, I think that goes back to what we're talking about and sort of that tipping point inflection. Like, when do we attract the guys who were part of the pioneers, who are excellent coders and are able to build? But more importantly, there's also a new generation. And I look around the room, and a younger generation, and I think on average, this might be a shock, but I think we're getting a little older. As the year goes on, we have a youngster here. Thank you for pulling the average down a little. But in general, I mean, that's also part of that outreach. And I think one of the challenges that the Amiga has specifically in this case is that there is a wave that's happened, and it's continuing to grow momentum around an entirely new class of computing device. That Raspberry Pi, the Arduino, those type of systems, which are Raspberry is a little more general in theory, but it can also be applied to specific use cases like the Arduino can for that physical computing need. And I think those technologies are beginning to attract younger people back into the idea of compute. I don't know if something like the Amiga will do that. But
another interesting question is whether there could be another killer app that would give it a boost. Because, for example, the PC took off in business because of Lotus 1-2-3, and a killer app for the Amiga was the toaster. Because suddenly here is something that a lot of commercial outfits needed to do, and they could do it very economically with Amigas, so they all ran out a lot of Amigas. And so if something else came along that were like that, then suddenly here is this machine that can do this great thing. So people who aren't necessarily computer enthusiasts, but just have some application they want to perform, and this happens to be the best tool to do it, then there's a whole new market.
I have to take issue with you on the Raspberry Pi. I shouldn't, because it's a British machine. I should support Britain. It's a fantastic machine. At the price, you can't beat it. It's kids. It hasn't been taken up by education. It's not being used by kids. They would never use it. They get their Xbox out. It's been used by middle-aged developers all around the world to do wonderful things. And they've just built their millionth Raspberry Pi. And the head of the foundation, Eben, what's his name, Eben, he says he's really pleased because he's just overtaken the number of BBC Micros that were built, because that was his machine as a kid. But they're not obviously not making the profit on the Raspberry Pi because at £30 or $55 is not a lot of return on that. But there's a lot of political stuff behind that, so I should say that. When Eldee said that you should take your machine to the office and talk to your co-workers, he actually does that. So he does take his machine, gives them demonstrations on his SAM. Come on his SAM, and they're amazed what can be done on a SAM 440. So it does show you that there's still something amazing about our system and our software. And I wasn't being downer on Amiga OS at all. I was just saying that we need to start to attract other people. We have had, with X1000 customers, people coming back to the Amiga who haven't been Amigans for a number of years and been totally blown away by what's possible. But we still are in the situation where we expect people to live with the little idiosyncrasies of Amiga OS. We do, because we understand it, we love it, we've been with it from way back, but we need to get a bit more stable, some of the tools, I keep saying, but some of the utilities that people expect to see on a modern computer we don't have, or we don't have in an easy way. So to me it's software, and I keep saying with some of the other developments we've got coming through, I don't think hardware is going to be a problem, and I think we've got lots of opportunities going forward, and not just in the Amiga world, in other communities.
Actually, speaking of the demos, I actually do, and it's true. I think what most people are amazed at is that a little embedded processor that's literally architecturally 13 years old at best is able to run all this cool stuff, and they're amazed at it, and they love it. Why don't they buy it? The reason why they don't buy it is because it's cool from a geek perspective, but that doesn't drive customers. In order to do so, you have to have a credible platform. Questions come in. Well, what about a word processor? Well, we got that. The second you go, well, that's no sale. So by bringing LibreOffice in, you've plugged a massive hole. By bringing in the modern hardware that has enough performance so that you can actually watch the videos that people are watching today, that plugs a huge hole. And once you start to create a platform in which you have the ability to do the same types of things that you do with a normal PC, people will suddenly be interested in spending money on it, even though it's more expensive, because they can do what they want to do, but they also get the excitement of using something that's different. And for people who are particularly middle-aged and people who, as you get older, you get a little more money and so forth, and they start to think about things as they used to be back in the day, they get that retro computing experience, but they can actually use it like their PC. Once you hit that point, I think that's the point you start wanting to spend dollars on marketing to the outside community. Probably not before, but I think we're getting really close to it.
I think one of the other challenges that we face in the community is I talk to a lot of developers, and some of them develop programs that we use day in, day out, and they don't get the proper recognition in terms of donations for their work, and that can be quite demoralizing for developers, because they're putting in a lot of man hours for these applications, and they're not seeing any feedback from the community in terms of just a simple email saying, I use your program, I love it, thanks very much, or a donation just to show recognition for their work. And if we really value the developers on the platform and the work that they do, and we want them to expand their applications and add new features, then we should, if we haven't donated recently, we should look at ways to say thank you to the developers. So that's one important way of engendering further software development.
talking about Greg Perry and Jonathan. Sorry, Jonathan. Jonathan Potter. Thank you.
You should write a note thanking them for giving up the director of his 5 stars.
Yes, that's a good point too. And soon to be using 5 because of work from a dedicated Russian developer and many others actually, I think, contributing to that source tree and sort of resurrecting those old titles that were one of the things. I mean, when I was a kid and I got a chance to use Directory Opus 5 for the first time, I was blown away. Like, this is how it should be. It's so logical and simple. What's that?
Walk into a religious bar.
He's just agreeing with you there. Don't worry about it.
I see. Well, maybe it's simple for some, Trevor.
There's choice.
There we go.
There's always choice, but in terms of capability,
Sorry, easier to play with than from the PC side, but it's also users for the Amiga side.
yeah, I just never liked apps where you couldn't move windows around. The whole point of Windows is you can move them. So anyway, digressing here a little bit. You brought up the Raspberry Pi a second ago, and I don't know if people know the history of this device, but one of its principal designers and builders was a guy by the name of David Braden, who was the same guy who wrote Elite and Frontier and formed a company, and that company's first game was Frontier for the CD32, which was actually a disaster. I had really high hopes for it. It really disappointed me. But he was an Amiga developer, and he was a Commodore developer, but he was an Amiga guy at the time. He did Amiga work, and now he went on to form this Raspberry Pi. So, I think what we're saying is getting back to that. There's something about this thing that is different. People that use it and touch it, it's above average, I think, a lot in a lot of metrics for the users of the particular machine. But anyway, getting back to the discussion. This is a good point that Kenny brought up around Directory Opus software. It's available on the PC. Just at a personal, for the panel, what applications or categories do you guys remember from an Amiga perspective, from the classic side, or older applications, you'd love to see reborn? And it's a little tougher for Eldee because he doesn't have that history. But I was just wondering, get some personal opinions there.
The ones I really liked, and I used all the time: Page Plus, Pro Draw, AD Pro, Final Writer, D-Opus, and I used 5 Magellan as well. I didn't use, I did upgrade. Never used that. No, I was a professional page guy. Deluxe Paint, all the paint programs. Personal Paint. I didn't really. I can answer for Matthew. He was a games player.
A program I use all the time, still on my Classic, and I really appreciate it. It's TV Paint. I'm not sure if you've used version 3.6, and I would absolutely love to see that on the next generation machine. So a bit more modernised for current applications, but that's one of my favourite applications, along with Wordsworth. I don't know if anyone's used Wordsworth, but the last version was one of my favourites, and I am a page tree fan as well. So I hope that gets upgraded soon. But I know that's still under development, isn't it? So yeah.
I'll as far as applications, it's pretty sad actually. My favorite application was Lattice C. So
Kind of sassy.
yeah. I used to be very excited because my parents bought me upgrades at Christmas time for my C compiler, and I loved it.
That's what the kid wants.
The only other application I really miss is Maple, actually, which is morphed into MATLAB and so on and so forth. Love to have that back on the Amiga, some kind of high-level mathematics. I love that too. Oh wait, I got a helper here for me. We'll chat. I was looking at all the clones nowadays, Octave and SciTech. There's some alternatives that I'm really curious about. Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
To carry on that, and I used to work at SLAC, the Linear Accelerator Center for Stanford, which was in the day actually an Amiga developer site. And Maple, there's an FTP site up there I'll have to find, which you might even get Maple off of it, I'm not sure. Very possible, but there's an active FTP. If you Google SLAC Amiga FTP, you'll probably find the site. So yeah, C compilers, I love my C compiler. Well, Personal Paint is, I do actually use that, or do use that occasionally. So, Maple and a lot of other scientific applications, that kind of thing. So I would love to see that kind of stuff happening as well, since that's basically what I do. A lot of the visualization, that kind of stuff, is hard to do with BASIC, something like that. So.
Yeah, let's see, one of the ones I used to use quite a bit is Bars and Pipes. And another one, which is probably even weirder than the C compiler that I miss, is VLT, the terminal emulator. I have yet to find anything as good as that runs on the Mac.
I actually done that. I actually used to do a lot of my own coding for MIDI stuff, so I actually coded on the Amiga a MIDI sequencer in Fortran. So.
Is the source code still available?
I can probably find it.
So the Stanford FTP site has VLT, but it does not have Maple. It has a, what is this called? AREX Maple Interface.lzh from 1992. So, okay, sorry, Steve. Sorry to burst your bubble, but
It's okay.
I'm sure it's out there.
Modern engines. So that's not very mentioned anything along the lines of modeling software.
3D or like video in that world, or?
No, I was thinking more of modeling services and the like.
There's no CAD. There's not architectural CAD. There's no UTE.
We did have a bit of a
There were.
Yeah. But nothing like that's available on mainstream platforms.
Well, that's like, I mean, EagleCAD is like the king of the downloadable free ones, right? From what I understand, but there were a few back in the day of the CAD software. But I don't think this particular group, maybe Fred does, but I don't know if you guys do CAD work or. It's an interesting mention, and yeah. I think I did find it funny that Trevor was talking about paint programs and how he tried them all and used them all, because when you look at his blog, if you haven't seen his blog, go read his blog. He does put a lot of attention to detail to the imagery. If you checked his blog out for coming to AmiWest, the first graphic is 4 pages. There are 4 press releases. Those are the actual press releases. He just shrunk down to a thumbnail, so you can actually tell what they were. But I can see that in you playing with the paint programs.
Yeah.
And Steve, I can see you playing with C compilers.
I've got one. I'd really like to see an Artifact 5. I really would, and I'd pay an awful lot of money for it. So, if Simon is listening to this from in Germany, you've got one customer, bud.
Hopefully more than one. But. Okay. Yeah, Brian.
I forgot to mention a visitor that we have with us, Michael Battalana from Cloanto. Thank you for coming to AmiWest. Came this afternoon. Yes. Thank you very, very much. And in conjunction with that, what kind of, for increasing the customer base on a sort of a try before you buy kind of thing, what role do you guys think emulation would play in increasing that customer base? And Michael can probably help us talk.
It's I would suggest, just really briefly, that emulating any of the systems that currently run the current release version of AmigaOS is going to be several orders of magnitude more difficult than emulating a 68K based machine. Admittedly, of course, the classic Amiga, you had to emulate the classic graphics chips and a bunch of other things. That's really tricky as well, but I don't think it would be simple. It'd be great if it was, because then if you had that, you make it a cloud service and people could go and act seriously. You could try it out through a web browser or something, and that would be great, but you'd need an awful lot of development dollars to do that. You know, people have to eat, and it's a lot of work. I just don't know that our community has those kind of resources available to it. Plus, I kind of like the cool boards.
Maybe stores should provide that service, but it's really useful. Productivity program.
You mean demo software? Are you talking about like a VNC session where you're driving a machine on over?
Yeah. So that the client is actually using it as software
On an Amiga.
renting it from a store.
From the service.
Yeah.
We've actually considered that. We had discussions on it last year. Not solely the training or our instrument, but we've looked at the argument is that
Support UAE to JavaScript.
It'd be great as we're done over this, but if you were to, it would, but I just fear that if you were to do that, you would completely crush everyone who's invested in the ecosystem as so far. While I think you probably get quite a few users doing that, you kill all the people that have invested blood, sweat, and tears, and money, and that is not what you want to do. You want to kill them off the ecosystem successfully. So unless you're going to grow real fast, I don't know how much that's going to change. At least not as a demo, yes. As a replacement, no.
Well, I mean, that goes back to trying to understand, and it's tougher now for the argument because the hardware is commodity, but how much of the experience is hardware, how much of the experience is software? And that's definitely a religious battle on the Amiga side. So I don't want to have that. I'm just saying that when you go to the cloud model, you know, what do you give up? I think is also what Eldee was trying to say to get into that space. And is it really something interesting and unique? Now, being able to not have to carry machines the distance that we do to bring them to the show might be a little more convenient. Might have more here. But it'd also be nice to have more here because we had more form factors, like things that have screens with hinges and batteries would be phenomenal. Everyone knows that. Well, you can run the emulator on your phone. That works. But it's not the same thing. No offense, Michael. I'm sure you do a lot of business on the UAE, but it's just not the same thing.
I guess my point of the emulation thought was to just introduce people to the Amiga itself in its classic form. And then, even through other users, you're talking about doing demos for people. And just using that as a first step. It wasn't last. And I don't know whether it would make any sense or not. But I don't, and I know for people who are, I think it might have a potential to feed into hardware and software markets. Just to introduce people that how it looks, how it feels, and what it does.
Well, so I think it's an interesting point, and I think Eldee came to us from outside the community, someone who's interested, and I don't know how you found it, which is kind of cool. Okay. But what I'm thinking is that if someone walked in the room and said, "I've heard of the Amiga before, and I'm interested, can I have one to take home?" I'm sure there'd be like 3 offers. Like, which one of these machines here do you want to take home with you? Because we have a plethora of classic hardware, but what we don't have is that next generation experience. And I think the 2 experiences are very, very different. And I think that's a challenge. I think it's a challenge.
Getting to the emulation software, I mean, Amiga Forever is a superb product. And, I know it's superb because I helped back it. So while I was joking about personal paint, I did use personal paint. But Amiga Forever is superb, and I do push a lot of my non-Amiga friends to try it out because it's an excellent package. And I really like. I mean, I don't know whether it's my suggestions or not. I like the fact that with Amiga Forever you can choose your system. You just get your previous classic system you like. There it is on your PC. So it's excellent. But I think it makes it easy for people not to become Amigans because they don't have to. They can get their Amiga experience on a PC.
It is not the experience. That's the problem.
Well, get their Amiga. You know, they're thinking back to what they played, the games they played as youngsters, or the software they used. They can do it on their PC without any other commitment other than buying Amiga Forever.
But they can't make a new partition on that hard drive and stuff junk. You know what I'm saying?
You could try, as I've done.
So okay, go ahead, Eldee. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in because one of the
No,
frustrations.
actually, you really should. That's why you're up front. Please jump in.
Right. So one of the very frustrating things for me as a new user was just figuring out what this thing looked like, felt like, because in order for me to try it, I had to buy a machine for several $100s because there wasn't enough users in the U.S. You know, one of the things that I really wanted were screenshots and videos. You know, this kind of stuff that, you know, you have basic marketing for. And this has gotten a lot better, by the way, over the past few years. You know, in 2010, there was no wiki, there was no blog, there was no website for any of this stuff. It was almost like people were hiding it. Thanks to the efforts of a certain Canadian and his minions, that situation has changed a lot, and it's gotten better. But if you want to attract new people, I don't think other than letting people rent SANs, which, you know, I mean, could be done, but you could lose a lot of money in the process because things are going to get damaged, or coming up with an opportunity to demo it via a cloud service or RDP or VNC. One of the great ways that you can really help people get a flavor is just to have some people who spend their time making YouTube videos of high quality, galleries of screenshots to walk you through. If you go to haiku-os.com or org, the haiku site, you know, one of the things that one of the enthusiasts did was they sat down and they created a video and they walked you through all sorts of stuff, the system, applications that run on the system, what it feels like. There's walkthroughs of the operating system, and that's something that really will help people who are on the fence. Little marketing things like that, I think, and that's not something necessarily that has to cost much. And each and every one of you who are here or listening at home or wherever else you're receiving this stream, hopefully it's dignified, can you know, right now, go home, make a video, take a couple of screenshots, post it on Facebook, post it on Google+. It helps.
I have to say that a number of our guys have. I mean, Mike's here. Mike did an excellent video on it. Epsilon does superb tutorial videos. Kiko did, yeah. So we have got guys who are doing excellent videos.
One of the other places where people can have an experience without buying is a user group. How many people belong to user group? Okay. And so how many people have an opportunity who don't belong to a user group? You can start a user group with the equipment that you've got and talking to your friends like you do, Eldee.
It requires a means.
It does.
I'm a user group of one.
Yeah, me too.
There is an Amiga user group in Waterbury, Connecticut, and anytime you can swing by, we've got meetings 24/7. But in order to have a group more than 8 Amigans, it's hard to find them.
Well, but what I'm talking about is creating.
I know.
And you see, that's what happened early on, is that not only was there a lot of product to buy, but was there a lot of tremendous interest in the machine, that people were becoming Amigas. And I think that's one of the things that all of us can try to do wherever we are, is to take what we use, how we use it, and what we do, and not to something.
Yeah, Beth.
One of the things we did for recycling is that we have a small office in Wilkinsburg from 64 Amiga group. We actually posted the discovered the Amiga at a mall. We actually had a photo thing that we had come through, look at the things going on, they're like, that's the new stuff. And people, we actually got like 200 people from that one show to come in and learn about it. And I think about 60, 70 of them stayed in constantly all the way till everybody's closed. That was
But when did you do that? What's
that was probably that was 19.
Yeah, so that's you can stop right there. Like Fairfax County Fair. I mean, it's.
We ran it in 97, but we still had a constant amount of people until.
But we're not there yet. We're just not there yet. Yeah,
But
Beth.
you still do that.
So how many of the people in this room bought their Amiga back in the classic days from a year, maybe not for you, because of a marketing campaign commercial that they saw, versus how many people bought their Amiga because they knew somebody that had one, that showed it to them and said, I got this cool thing and you should see it. Okay? So this isn't a new problem. This has been a problem since 1984.
How did it sell itself?
Yeah, well, and so whether it's through a users group community or whether it's through a one-on-one, you show your buddies, that's the way to get people involved in this machine. If there's ever a point where there's a critical mass enough to have a marketing and sales and all that kind of push, fine. But we're not going to see that until we've gotten our next door neighbor, our buddy down the hall at work, or whatever, to see what this machine, see what this concept, see what this operating system looks like, what it does, and how it works.
So I think we're actually closer. I use a litmus test internally. Like, do I really want my mom to use this machine? Like, that's the question. Like, if my mom were to use an Amiga, what would that experience be like for me? And we're not there yet. But we're also significantly closer than we were 5 years, even probably 3 years. And that sort of 2-year timeline, assuming and I'll beat up on OS4 and maybe MorphOS might be in a different place, but I'm not as familiar with it. The beavers who are making OS4, if they get a little busier and can get those foundational pieces done that we know about, SMP, Gallium, and so forth, I can see with a competent Office suite that runs fast and a competent browser that has a full hardware-accelerated HTML5 canvas engine, all of that kind of good stuff, actually going there. But right now, it's a little too jagged for the uninitiated or people who aren't technology people who are just looking for something that is really different and unique in technology. I come home and I turn my Amiga on and I look at it and say, I got to think of something to do with this. And I enjoy that. It's really weird because I don't do that with my Mac or anything else.
I'll tell you this right now. I was a 64 user. My mom bought me an Amiga in 1985. And until 1986, I joined this one. And I had 500 until 1999. Because I was getting ready to do my mom. So I couldn't transport it.
You can get one. I think they're on the other side of the partition. But so we're coming up on time. Any closing statements by the folks on the panel? Any closing statements? Or actually, hold on one second. Any questions from the audience? Alex, did you have a question?
It's not a question, but like since Commodore sold millions of Amiga, it's reasonable to consider millions of ex-Amiga. And the problem is most of them don't even know that Amiga is still alive. And there's no mention of Amiga in the mainstream press at all.
Conspiracy.
So, I think that's the biggest problem is that there's millions of people who would be interested if only they knew that the Amiga is still alive.
Yeah.
Because they don't even know it's alive, they don't even think about searching Google for Amiga or anything.
Maybe we could get Andy Warhol to do another event.
The draw from that would be astronomical.
That would be a very interesting trip on more than one level.
Any other questions from the audience before we do closing statements? Yes, Robert.
I was at Maker Faire. We have nostalgic computers sitting at the Maker. I had a C64, C128, and an Amiga 2000. Hundreds of people came through our exhibit. You know, there were 100,000 people at Maker Faire right there in San Diego. Hundreds of people watching right through our exhibit. I mean, 11 hours a day. I was there at those tables. I was there 11 hours a day on Saturday and Sunday, you know, showing this is what you do on the C64 or 128. This is what you do on the Amiga 2000. And there was so much interest in it. I said, wow, there's coming up here advertising for Amiga. I had written brochures or handouts or flyers.
Or X1000.
I was telling people about AmiWest show, about Convex. I mean, they wanted to know. And of course, some of them were said, oh, well, we programmed it back in the day. I said, well, you can still get back into it. I said, well, we used this back in the day. Well, get back into it. Yeah, this is our class. I said, get it out. We can support you.
No, I mean, that's an excellent example of what George was saying earlier, and what Eldee was saying too, is getting out there and spreading the word. And if you try 100 or 1,000 times, maybe you'll find someone interested. No, but it's true. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are, in my professional life, I try to sort of drop the Amiga name when I'm in meetings with customers and whatnot. It's every now and then someone's like, that's kind of cool. I had business with a company whose CEO was one of the developers of Commodore Unix, and I had a 3000 UX on my desk at work, and unfortunately it never came by. I was gonna point it anyway. Any other questions from the audience, or okay? So let's do closing statements and then let's wrap up and go party. So how do we do this? Let's start with Fred and go that way, and then I'll.
I don't think I really have anything to close with. So.
Okay.
No problem. What I said before, that we need applications that take it a little bit further.
Yes, closing statements. I was just thinking my wish would be that more people would thank their developer today. If somebody made a piece of software that you use, send them an email. Like for example, I made this program called Ranger because it helped me out with development, and then I find out that there's a lot of downloads of it. I had one person ever give me a donation, even though I asked for donations in the README, ever. And it's been 5-6 years. I'm losing track now. So I'm like, tell them it exists, that you exist, right? That's but you don't have to give them any money. Just tell them you exist. That's about it.
You know, obviously I think as a future I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I wasn't meant to be down on anyone. I think it's great. I think it's a great time. We think 3 or 4 years ago, actually before AQ started building the sound systems, it looked like we were down and out. So I do thank A-Cube an awful lot for keeping the dream alive and getting me involved, because that's how I got involved in the first place. So I'm actually, and Michael as well, because it was a visit with Michael that led to me getting involved in, eventually, in the X1000. So small, the Amiga world's very small, and anywhere you go, there's someone who was or is an Amigan. Actually, Matthew's got a story, because he was at a retro past, present, and future Amiga show, computer show in Manchester, in the northwest of England last week. The poor lad, that's why he's tired. He's been working so hard, and there were 60,000 people at the show over 2 days. So, having said that, I'm going to pass on to Matthew, and he can give you what he learned from the show.
Yeah, so last weekend, just before I jumped on the plane to come here, we attended a computer show in Manchester. A very significant amount of people were there, thousands and thousands went past our stand. We had a nice Aeon stand, we had a white X1000, a black X1000, running the workbenches, the games, we were really showcasing our stuff to the wider computing community, and a lot of these people were ex-Amigans, and they hadn't seen an Amigan for many years, 20 odd years. So they were very surprised to see the Amigas there. I had lots of comments throughout the weekend. Is this a PC? I had to say, no, it's not a PC. One guy said when he saw the white X1000, is this a fridge? So I was baffled by that comment.
Yes.
But there was quite a few celebrities. Jeff Minter was there, Rob Hobart was there, so they went past our stand, very very baffled by the next generation Amigas, but it did highlight to me that there was 3 Commodore developers, ex-Commodore developers, that came up to me, and when they saw the Amiga, they started asking questions. Is this the new operating system? I said yes, and they said why? And then they said, is this the new hardware? I explained all about the Nemo boards, and they just replied, why? And they said, what's the community like? I explained that there's still hardcore people still involved in the Amiga community, and they said, why? So that was the response I had from them. But at least they went away knowing that the Amiga's still here, there's new hardware still made, the operating system's still being developed by many people in this room, and a lot of people put blood, sweat and tears into it. So summing up, I would probably say that anyone who hasn't helped a developer, or given them a donation, or sent them a nice email, should. And if when there is new hardware, which is great, taking a great risk to come, that's if you want to make a purchase, don't delay. Just buy the new hardware, sell on your old hardware, and then someone else will get the benefit of your second-hand board, and we'll expand the user base. And that's the best way to get better software.
So I guess I'll close with a kind of a personal story. When I was a boy, I loved computing. I was fascinated by it. I knew that I wanted to be involved in it for the rest of my life. I ran Commodores and I ran Macs, and I just loved using them. It meant so much to me. But at some point, I grew up. The Mac went away, the Ataris went away, Commodore went away, and I, for years and years and years, just didn't have something where I came home and wanted to use the machine because I enjoyed using it, because it was fun. I didn't think that was ever going to happen again until I found this. And the very fact that people have struggled on time and again, lawyers and all sorts of other struggles, financial problems and all the rest of it, I can't tell you what it means to me to be able to have that hobby again. and I suspect there's probably quite a few people just like me. So thank you all very much. If we're quiet, I apologize. We need to say thank you more often. It's just been wonderful, and this is a great platform, and I'm so pleased to see it continue.
Thank you to our panel for participating. We appreciate your perspectives, and I think that we can take encouragement from being able to talk with and hear from the movers and the shakers in the Amiga community who are assembled here in this room, to be able to know that our future is proceeding, and we do have people who believe in not only a computer platform, but in the people who use it. And that's one of the things that I always say about our show. We provide the place, but you come. If you didn't come, there wouldn't be a show. So it's all, again, our thanks to you who have come, some from great distances, from across oceans and through the air, on the ways, on the rail, however you got here, because you make this show. If you didn't come, we couldn't have it. We have a user group meeting every month. I mean, it would just be a big user group meeting, but now you have added to it. You have made that into capital. You have made that into creativity, and that's why we're here. And we'll do it again next year. We've never canceled a show. We've been at it. This is the 16th year, we really, pardon me?
Booked the hotel?
Well, they only take it a year in advance, so we have to wait till we're done. But we will. Thank you for coming, and Amiga team members, don't forget against the back wall for the firing squad. Show floor opens again 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and do we have another message from Bill here?
I think Paul was just pointing out that the developer award hadn't been said who won.
Oh, that's right. Who did win?
Who won? Well, I have to say that people did actually vote for him, which was surprising. You did. And for the official record, he is a qualified developer. He has software up on OS4 Depot. It is available, and it was released in the last year. So it doesn't hurt that he's also the second name I typed in when I was building the database, but whatever.
How many votes did you get?
None, actually. I was the first name nominated when I was building the database, but I decided I wasn't going to nominate myself fast that. No one nominated me, so it's okay. I only have 73 downloads on my screen blanker. But anyway. So the winner was, after the voting here at the show, and we will produce and send to this individual a plaque. But the winner, and I should say of the top 5, they were all excellent developers. Really appreciate their work. We'll call it, what is it? First among equals, shall we call it? Was Simon Archer. Won the developer award for his work on Code Bunch and Ami Update. So Simon, thank you. We appreciate all of your efforts, and I will be in touch, and I know how to get in touch with you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Time for the party. Whose room is it?
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. After all the activities you've done. Did you guys have fun? Cool. Are you just saying that because it's late and you're tired? Okay. Thank you for coming. Showing off. Cool. Lots of